Neil from Essex here to go on a little walk this morning. We're going to do a little bit different kind of video here. Usually on YouTube, we're talking about product stuff, right? We're talking about tractors and how to use them and what's coming out, the new things, the industry happenings. But this morning, I'm just going to tell you some stories. We're here at our Elizabethtown location, the store that we now have moved out of down here to the new Mount Joy store. This place is going to be sold here in a couple of weeks. It's under contract right now. We're nearing that settlement date. And I have decades of memories in this place. This is kind of a little sad transition for a lot of us, having so much history here. So I'm gonna take a little bit of time this morning and simply tell you some stories. We're gonna go walk around here, talk about some different areas, different parts of the building, things that I remember as a kid growing up in this business. I have a little bit to share with you. You might think it's fun.
Essex, a helping hand with your land.
So we're going to start here at the front of the building where you kind of drive into Essex and work our way to the back of the property. Interestingly enough, the road behind me here is Merts Drive. Mert is my grandfather. He's the one that started this business about 70 years ago now. And his legacy is kind of in the naming of this road here that sadly we're not going to be on anymore, but that's a cool thing to me. Behind you here, you see this hotel. This is not part of our operation, right? This hotel is an independent company here. They used to be a Holiday Inn at one point. Cool to me, though, is that before this building was here, I mowed the grass down here for probably 5 or 6 years. One of the first things that I did in this company as a kid, probably starting at 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, was mowing all the grass around these buildings. And before that hotel was there, I was one of the ones responsible for going back and forth and maintaining all of that. A couple things stick out in my mind from that. Somebody obviously went down and did a golf ball driving practice down there on their own. Probably some retired guy just getting some sunshine. But when I went out to cut that grass, I was constantly pulling golf balls out of the grass, which to this very day, I have a huge box in my basement of golf balls, many of which were hit by the lawnmower that I was driving, but I collected them all and continue to use them when I'm lucky enough to go out and play golf for a day. This dead tree right here, one day as I was driving my mower up from this lower lot down here back up to the building, a huge branch about 6 inches around fell off of that big tree and fell right in the middle of the road and missed my mower by probably about 10 feet as I was coming up the road. So goodness, if I was about a second or two earlier, it would have landed right on me, just a freak accident. We call this the lower lot down here, kind of looking down to your right. There's a little stream that runs down through here, but because of that stream, this area gets really wet. And we've always mowed it and maintained it kind of to keep things looking nice around here, but I can't tell you how many times some poor person would have had to come down with a forklift or a skid loader to pull me out of the mud because it gets pretty swampy down there. So coming up Merts Drive, the very first thing you come to on your left-hand side is this. It's the ag lot. Now, we call it the ag lot now because that's what it's been in the most recent years. It's a lot of our used ag and farming machinery and stuff would sit down here. Used to have a long line of balers and disc bines the whole way back the right-hand side here, but it's a big open space now. One of the things that I first remember when I first started working for Essex myself, we had more space than what we do today, right? Business wasn't quite as big, and you would find some lawn equipment and that kind of stuff down here along this side and up near the building. And the first thing that I did when I started in here was taking some of that stuff and starting to list some of it on eBay. Going through and selling off some of the junk and stuff that accumulates in equipment dealerships like ours. And yeah, it's just memories of that kind of stuff strewn about down here and that piles of stuff to work through. Everybody was pretty excited when I was able to come in and use some of my computer and technical skills to turn that into cash. This is the main building here at the Elizabethtown store. Now, this was the first building that was built here by my grandfather back in 1978. This initial building that they built here, I believe, was about 16,000 square feet. And now it's been added on time and time and time again. Ultimately, here at this location, we ended up with a little over 100,000 square feet before moving to Mount Joy. So this is the oldest building that's here. Now, what's interesting here on the inside is all the forms that this building has taken as years have gone by. If you'd walked into Essex for about the last 9 years or so, you walked into this showroom. A pretty good sized showroom, right? About 8,000 square feet or so. But this room has actually taken a lot of changes here over the years. Growing up as a youngster, and even for the first several years that I worked here, this actually encompassed both our showroom and a large portion of our parts department. Our original parts department at that point was all the bins and everything back through here with a counter across here that would have about cut this room in half. Several offices were up here at the front for my dad, my uncle, the clerical staff and stuff that works here. And I spent a lot of time in these spaces, right? Coming in to work with my dad, coming up to get him when I got the lawnmower stuck all the time. My background is in IT. I have a degree in computer programming and did a lot of the computer networking and stuff in here as the business's needs grew into needing that kind of stuff. So had network switches buried up in the ceiling and wires all over the place, standards that I would be embarrassed to admit or to see today. But that's where I cut a lot of my teeth here on learning about technology, was in the family business. So that's all took place right here. Some really vintage old wood paneling and stuff that had all those offices and the headers with the belts hanging up in the ceiling. All the plow parts, my goodness, we had bins in the back here of all bins made out of 2x4s and stuff in order to have good heavy shelving for all the heavy tillage parts and stuff that I had to count and unload from their boxes when unpacking our parts stock orders. One thing that we've learned through construction projects is not just to build for what we need today, but to actually plan for growth for the future. When we had gone through these construction projects before, all too often we found that till we started the project and did all the planning and got moved in, that once we moved in, the need was so great at that point that we just filled everything up. We always thought we had an absurd amount of parts shelving down here, and nearly as soon as we moved in here, we filled a lot of this space. The current building that we're in now has 6 times as much shelving as what we have in here to be able to break down those parts orders and store everything properly. But this wasn't always parts bins. Before all of these were here, this was actually our shop. There were 4 large garage bays across the side of the building here where ag equipment was pulled in, and then additional shop extensions put on the back side of the building here for the bigger construction equipment and for our setup shops and to be able to pull combines and stuff inside. So additional sections were put on the back part of this building as years went by. So right in here alone, there were 4 building additions done. Now I remember the most vivid memory for me in this space before it looked like this, when it was just a shop, is open houses, right? So open houses for Messick's are something that have gone on for decades. And I remember from my earliest years coming into this area, having a movie screen hung up in the back of this shop and my dad showing the latest Disney films and stuff that they were able to rent and bring in for customers. And the turnout for that kind of stuff was always enormous, especially among the more conservative communities around here. It was always fine to come out to Messick's in order to watch a video, and experiencing that was always really cool. I remember sitting in the upstairs lunchroom with my brothers and sisters and getting popcorn and chocolate milk from downstairs and watching the movie through a little screen upstairs. It's just cool things that have happened here from Messick's for a number of decades. It's probably about 20 odd years ago that the business got into bulk oil distribution. Now, in order to accommodate that, a bit of a lean-to was built off the side of the building over here that housed some of the tanks and the larger parts storage. One thing that is burned into my mind is the sound of the air pumps that run all of this system. It's this pooch, pooch from the air-driven pumps as these things are moving oil around. Now this space has gotten rearranged as well. The tank farm got moved into the back here with more products and stuff in it. But this has always kind of existed in this space. And again, another kind of addition here to the side of the building, just as our growing business needed more storage capacity. So we're at the back of the part of the main building now and moving into my era here a little bit now. So you see this room is currently set up with pallet racking. Well, it wasn't always this way. About 8-9 years ago now, we would have built a new shop facility up here. And when we built that shop, that's when all the bins and everything were set up in the old shop. In this space, which was the old setup shop, got fit out with pallet racking. So there used to be offices and stuff back here for the setup and dispatch manager, some welding areas and stuff here in the back that would have had vices and metal and stuff in them. But the thing that I remember from back here is when we used to do consignment sales. We used to do auctions every year, kind of usually in the springtime or so, when people would bring in outside equipment they wanted to have auctioned off, we get rid of some of our own stuff at the same time. And I used to come in and help with the food stand that would get run here in the back corner of the building with pie and soup and that kind of stuff for people that were out here for the auction. As a fundraiser, I believe, for my church youth group, if I remember that part of it right. So always cool to be running behind the counter where they're giving out everybody's numbers and that kind of stuff and checking off the paperwork as it comes back in, and then taking care of that food service back in here for those consignment sales. So we're standing up here in the newest building addition to the facility, and this is our service shop. Now, this is only about a 9-10-year-old building at this point. It's 40,000 square feet, and by any measure, it's a fantastic service shop for the kind of business that we do. Plenty big, nice high ceilings. It's got all the amenities for oil lines and exhaust hoses and air compressors and everything that you need to have a successful functioning shop like this. My biggest memory of this is not so much the shop itself, because this is modern thinking for us now, but it was what was here before this building was here. This really changed our highway frontage a lot and the look of the building when this went up, because this space used to be the new equipment lot, right? And so as you're going up and down Route 283, the major highway here along the side of the store, you'd see all the round balers lined up and everything out along the highway. And the visual change when this went up is really striking in my mind. I've also got some neat ideas and neat memories of doing Christmas lights and stuff here. Something that I've done for the business for a long time is take care of that Christmas light show that we do in the wintertime. Even growing up as a kid and mostly starting in high school and college, I'd come out and put lights on equipment and that kind of stuff out here at that time of year. And I really remember a couple of big trees that we made out here by taking an excavator boom and putting it up in the air and stringing those lights out to make a big tree along the highway in this space. So things change over time when these buildings go up. So we're at the far end of the facility now. If you come up the driveway and just go as far as what you can, this is where you end up. Now, here's another building behind me here that we kind of annexed as years went by. We've always owned this property, but eventually we had a Goodyear tire distributor come back in here and build this building and then rent some of the ground and stuff from us as they operated here. After they moved out, a car dealer actually moved in up here, put the showroom on the front of the building and added on to the shop a little bit and worked out of this location for a number of years before, interestingly enough, moving down to Mount Joy where we are now. We're now very close to them again. But once they moved out and we needed that space, I actually worked out of this building up here for a little while. We used this as a separate showroom for more of the consumer type products, lawn tractors, zero-turn mowers, compact tractors, and actually had a separate showroom up here for a little while. It made for some nice office space, but was always very confusing to our customers when we had so many buildings and so many places to walk in order to get service. So it was pretty short-lived that we actually used this as a showroom. But you know, you have those places in your mind of kind of where your desk and your workspace is as things move along. And for me, I spent a number of years working out of this building up here. When the car dealership moved out of this building, there were a number of offices in the top part of the building here that we weren't using for anything that eventually were converted into an apartment. Now, both of my younger brothers at one point lived in this apartment even before they were working here and actually working elsewhere. They had a 2-bedroom apartment in the top of this space up here. So they certainly would have some unique memories of living here, and specifically waking up to the sound of impact wrenches at 7:30 in the morning when everybody comes into work on a Saturday and they're trying to get some extra sleep. This area we call the lower warehouse. Now, it's been a warehouse for parts or equipment for as long as what I can remember. You've probably seen in other videos here before where you find tractors and loaders stacked 5 high out here with aisles going back and forth for a lot of our new equipment storage out here. But the thing that is most burned into my mind is probably one of my most embarrassing work memories ever. Are the years that I spent in here with a good friend working side by side doing what we thought was pre-delivering equipment. When machinery comes into our dealership, it doesn't come in ready to roll, right? There's a process you have to go through in order to put tires onto a tractor and install its loader. And I spent some time here over the summer with a friend down here working side by side in this warehouse doing what we thought was getting equipment ready for retail. We take one of these machines, take it out of its wooden crate, bring a forklift over with a chain wrapped around it in order to pick the tractor up in the air, bolt the tires on, attach the seat and the steering wheel. And in our mind, we were really productive and very efficient in doing this, and the equipment was ready to go. But today, I'll tell you, I'm more aware than ever of the amount of things that I probably missed, right? The amount of nuts and bolts that somebody else was probably having to go over top of and reattach again, the fluids that we never topped off properly, the inevitable steering wheel that was probably on sideways, who knows? But I'm sure I made a mess of problems for our service shop on the back side, and for that, I am eternally sorry and embarrassed. So that's my little tour and maybe some of my stories, some of the memories that I have of this place. Just kind of in conclusion, it's weird to do this, right? You spend so much time in a place, and it has so much of a life of its own when it's full of people and there's stuff going on, and you walk through here now and it just doesn't feel the same, right? It really does feel like, in essence, we have moved on to a new location now, but a lot of those memories and stuff that you have, they kind of still stay behind, and there's a little bit of grieving that takes place for all of us, and kind of, you know, moving on from this place. It's been so close to us for such a long time. I can't get over doing these videos and saying thank you enough, right, to all of you that watch these videos and support our business, to just be a member of a family business that is such a part of an incredible community of people, of employees who help and serve our customers, who believe in the vision that we do, for all the people that come and support our business and have been so supportive of us as we've made this huge shift and huge investment in the future of this company. We just can't say thank you enough for all of you being along on this journey with us. It gives us confidence in the investments that we're making and the direction that we're taking this business in. So thank you. So in conclusion, if you're shopping for a piece of equipment and you can help, or if you have parts and service needs for a machine you've already got, give us a call at Messick's. We're available at 800-222-3373 or online at Messick's.com. Believe it or not, my two younger brothers, as newlyweds, that makes it sound like they were married to each other. Yeah, let's not say that.